All right, Miss Williams. Thank you very much.
Healy, that doesn't mean I wasn't there. You can't expect her to remember everyone.
Sure, you might have bought that ticket. Might have gone in. The point is, how long did you stay?
And another thing, Conway. You taking a show on Wednesday afternoon, and another one on Thursday.
There's no law against that.
Of course not. But it just don't sound right, Conway, with the same pictures playing at both theaters.
Well, it's still up to you to prove that I had anything to do with this.
Sure, it's up to us. And after all, that's what a trial is for. Isn't that so, Conway?
So it finally happened, didn't it, Larry? In spite of the planning, the elaborate alibi, the multitude of witnesses, in spite of a confident lawyer who was sure the grand jury wouldn't find evidence enough against you, in spite of everything, it's come to trial. And you sit there listening to your lawyer cross-examining Lieutenant Healy.
Now, Lieutenant, according to your theory, Mr. Conway went to the movie, stayed a few minutes, left by a side entrance, drove 70 miles to Abington, strangled Miss Reed, drove 70 miles back to the theater, and mingled with the crowd as it left the movie.
I think we've demonstrated such a thing could be done.
That's exactly the point. The entire case for the prosecution rests on the possibility that such a thing could be done. The point is, was it done? Where is the proof? Can you prove my client left the theater? Can you prove he drove to Abington? Can you prove anything?
I said it was possible.
Your Honor, all the prosecution has done so far is to place Mr. Conway 70 miles from the victim at the time of the crime. An excellent point, I might add, for the defense. I therefore move that the court hand down a directed verdict in favor of my client.
I object, Your Honor. Don't you consider it strange that Mr. Conway, highly anxious about Miss Reed, instructed the operator to ring her every 20 minutes, then went off to a movie?
Mr. District Attorney, we've been here several days, and all we have heard is testimony involving the speed of a car and how long a movie lasts. Regardless of what I think or what you think, it is the task of the prosecution to place the accused in the presence of Hazel Reed on the day of the murder. Unless you are able to show that, on that day the two were together, I will have to consider the defense's motion for a directed verdict when the court reconvenes tomorrow.
Well, Larry, looks better now, doesn't it? Sure, the ticket to girl doesn't matter after all. Why, you should have known there was no way they could possibly prove you and Hazel were together. Your lawyer was right. The prosecution doesn't have a leg to stand on. And you've taken on some of his confidence now, as the court reconvenes on what you hope is the last day of the trial.
Take it easy, Conway. I can't help worrying a little. Forget it. It's put up or shut up for the DA today. You'll be a free man in about 10 minutes.
Well, there he goes.
Your Honor, the prosecution admits working from a false assumption. We agree it was impossible for Conway to go to a movie, drive back to Abington, kill Hazel Reed, then drive 70 miles back to her hotel, if the murder was committed at the time the coroner's report shows.
Do you challenge the coroner's statement?
No, Your Honor, we accept it.
Very well, Mr. District Attorney. In view of the statement you just made, I have no other
Your
alternative
Honor.
than... Yes?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I haven't conceded the case. I simply said we accept the coroner's report as the time of death and agree with the defense that Mr. Conway couldn't have covered such a great distance in order to commit the murder in Hazel Reed's house in Abington.
I understand that. Go on.
The point is simply this. Hazel Reed was not killed in her house.
Go on, Mr. District Attorney.
No, Your Honor, she was killed after she had been lured to the Globe Theater by Conway, where they met inside, in the lobby. Hazel Reed was murdered in his car, out on the highway somewhere after they had left the movie. His whole plan depended on the police believing she had been killed in her house at Abington.
I object, Your Honor. This is all mere conjecture, guesswork. There isn't one iota of proof. Not one witness.
Your Honor, I ask the court's permission to recall to the witness Minnie Williams to the stand.
Very well.
You swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, help you God?
I do.
Now, Miss Williams, you were selling tickets at the Globe Theater on the night of the murder?
Yes. Yes, sir, I was.
Here is an enlarged photograph of a woman. Look carefully. Miss Williams, have you ever seen her?
Oh, yes. I remember her.
Tell the court where and when you saw her, please.
Well, she bought a ticket from me on Thursday night. I remember her very well, sir.
What time Thursday night?
Well, I'm sure it was around 8 o'clock, just after I came on duty.
Your Honor, this is a photograph of Hazel Reed. That's all. Thank you. You're a witness.
You have a most agile memory, Miss Williams.
Oh, no, sir. I don't have a good memory at all.
Yet you say you remember this woman. Out of hundreds of customers, you remember this woman.
Yes, sir. I remember her very well.
Yet you did not remember Mr. Conway, despite the fact that he held up the line, created considerable unrest among the rest of the customers, and even accused you of shortchanging him.
Well, you don't understand, sir. There's so many like that. Well, maybe he was there. But you see, I never remember who he was or what he looked like. There's so many.
I don't blame you a bit, Miss Williams. I might not remember him either. And yet you can sit there and swear you remember Hazel Reed. What kind of logic is that?
Please. I do remember
How long
her.
was she at the window?
Just long enough to buy a ticket.
So you saw her a few seconds. Yet you were so impressed that you remember her right now. Why?
Because she smiled at me.
She smiled?
She smiled and said I had a pretty dress. I know it sounds silly, but you see, I'm not a pretty girl. I know it. I've always known it. So when people come in long lines and complain about prices and ask about the shows and tell me I've cheated them.
Just a minute, Miss Williams. We're not interested in that at the moment. I want to impress you with this fact. A man's life is at stake. A man's life depends on your memory, Miss Williams. Is that clear?
I know it. I tell you.
And yet you can sit there under oath and claim to remember this woman who smiled at you.
You can't understand that, can you? You don't know what it is to sit in a glass cage night after night and to listen to them complain and accuse you of cheating them and look at you as if you were a machine.
That has nothing to do with what I...
It does. It has everything to do with it. She smiled. She said my dress was pretty. I remember that because no one ever did it before. I remember it. I always will. And nothing you say will ever make me change my mind.
Yes, Larry. The woman you murdered smiled at a girl who wasn't pretty and convicted you of murder. Your dollar tips, the telephone calls, the wires, the waiters, hotel clerks, nothing mattered after that. Hazel Reed smiled, and you went to the chair. Strange, isn't it?